Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Classic Gaming Brothers. I'm Seth.
And I'm Zach.
And we are the Classic Gaming Brothers.
Yeah, that's right. We are the Classic Gaming Brothers.
Yeah, that's right. What another Sunday we are here again.
Who are you, Yoda? What another Sunday we are here again.
We are here again, another Sunday.
Round the survivors a perimeter create.
Oh, man. He doesn't do much, does he?
Yoda?
Yeah.
No. Do you know what my favorite fact about Yoda is? That voice he does isn't related to his species. He just talks like that because he's a little weirdo. Because other members of his species have talked both in canon and in legends.
Yeah.
And none of them ever talk like him.
Yeah, he just does it to F with people. Or because he had a stroke.
Like, Yaddle canonically has has a canon episode of Tales of the Jedi or something, and she just talks like a normal person.
Yeah, but you know what? Nobody cares about Yaddle.
That's true.
People care about Yoda and then Grogu, Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
But Yoda, decidedly, I guess he does train Luke for a little bit.
But what's really training Luke when he's just like...
I know, he just sits around, right?
He like gets strapped to Luke's back as a backpack
and complains.
Yeah, complains.
He complains.
And then tells him to go into the woods by himself.
He thinks Luke is doing a crappy job. He hits him with sticks. He hits R2 with sticks. He complains. He makes gross soup, and then he dies. And everyone's like, oh, Master Yoda, the greatest Jedi around. I was like, no, he's just a crotchety old creature.
Do you think Ghost Obi-Wan and Ghost Qui-Gon were like watching from the corner, just being like, oh, isn't this hilarious? We told Luke he was a genius.
Well, like it was a big troll that they were like, go find Master Yoda. And then he's just like, well, I mean, he is one of the last Jedis alive. So
that's true.
He is probably the best Jedi.
When you are the last, you are the best.
And he was in charge, but decidedly he led to the destruction of all Jedi, so probably not the best person to be in charge.
Also, was he just in charge because he was old? Like, he was the oldest member of the council, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but Jedis aren't the brightest.
No.
Like, it's what? Peace, serenity.
There is no emotion, there is peace, there is no ignorance, there is knowledge, there is no passion, there is serenity, there is no chaos, there is harmony, there is no death, there is the Force.
Yeah, nothing in that code of ethics has anything to do with running a decent government and or being tactically sound in combat.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense that they were made to be generals.
They weren't in charge because the Republic was in charge, which was equally a
mistake.
They're not a mistake. They were just, if you could learn one thing about Warhammer 40k and we can apply it to a Star Wars universe, when you have planets upon planets of systems, you really need to rule through a weird hybrid cult.
Yes. What you need to do is you need to get real Catholic.
You need to get real Catholic, and you need to kill anyone who disagrees with you, and that's how you keep order. The Jedi didn't know how to do that, but guess who did? The Empire. Guess what? They ran the planets, the galaxy, because they had a weird emperor, and they killed everybody who disagreed with them.
That's true.
So there we go. But this is not going to be a 40k or a Star Wars episode as much as this intro leads you to believe.
It never is.
Probably because we're just bad at starting episodes.
Yeah, we're very bad at starting episodes,
and we haven't had mail in a while either.
That's true. I think either producer Doug is burning it for fuel so we can get the heaters going for when the winter arrives, or it's just no one loves us.
It's like an engine in Warhammer where they have to they send a horde of people to go sacrifice themselves.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's where all of our letters go.
Well, speaking of Warhammer, the game I've recently been playing is a Warhammer game.
Look at that. I segued right into it. And I was like priming the segue too by talking about it.
You're doing a good job. You did a good job. The game I've been recently playing is Space Hulk Deathwing. For a little context, Seth and I beat Space Marine 2, so cue the music of me and Seth beating, and I'll play it at the same time, so it's obnoxious. Beating Space Marine 2 with my dear brother got me in the mood to play more Warhammer games, and I realized I owned a bunch of Warhammer games that I forgot I owned. I owned Dawn of War, I forgot I owned that. I owned the first Space Marine, forgot I owned that. And I also own Space Hulk Deathwing on Good Old Games, which I think I got as a freebie from Twitch. It's an interesting game. So Space Hulk Deathwing was released in 2016 from Stream on Studio, and it puts you in command of a group of Deathwing Terminators, who are tasked with purging a Space Hulk ship that fell out of the warp. The ship is infested with Tyranids, so you gotta do what any loyal person to the Emperor does, and you gotta kill some Tyranids. It's a fun game. It feels far more tactical than something like Bolt Gun is, so instead of just kind of like running and gunning and blowing up Tyranids, which, you know, you do, you have the ability to actually order around your other Terminators who are with you. You're in a group of 3, so you can tell your other Terminators to go do stuff. You can like hack doors and close doors behind you and keep them hacked so Tyranids can't get in if they're chasing you, and you can hack into turrets to disable them or enable them to use them. And I like that kind of tactical first-person shooter mindset to it. It makes me feel a bit like I'm playing Republic Commando, the Star Wars game.
Yeah.
So you can kind of give people orders to do stuff. I also like, one of my favorite facts about Terminators is that they have pocket teleporters on them, and in Space Hulk Deathwing, these pocket teleporters are used so that they can go back to their main ship, get healed up, and upgrade with the admechs, and then they just get sent right back into battle. So you can pocket teleport a few times. I think as you like kill enemies, you gain more uses of your pocket teleporter, but I just like the idea that you just are like, bye-bye, and you like disappear, and then you come back with like a heavy machine gun, like, I'm back. Yeah, it's an interesting game. I like it. I look forward to playing more and wiping out some Tyranids. I think it's also very fun to have a game where I played as a Space Marine just recently with Seth, and now playing as a Terminator, because Terminators are veteran Space Marines, so they move a little bit slower, they got a lot more weapons, and they also have psychic abilities, and they can like do things like just randomly send electricity at people, and that's always fun. But yeah, that's Space Hulk Deathwing. You can probably find it on GOG.
I decided that I was not going to go back to playing Warhammer for a little bit. Instead, I got served a YouTube video of a guy talking about Satisfactory, which is a factory building game, and his name was Doc, and he was an older man, and he loves Satisfactory, and he's retired, and that's pretty much what he does. He claims he was not an engineer, but he worked with a lot of engineers, and I believe he was at Boeing or something like that. And his name is Doc, and he does Satisfactory tips and tricks videos, and I started watching them, and then I was like, I'm not even playing Satisfactory right now. And then I started watching more videos of his, and I was like, man, this is like a whole thing. And then I started watching other people doing Satisfactory like guided builds, and I was like, wow, like I have new knowledge unlocked. So I opened up my factory. Took me a little while to figure out where everything was, because I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I did this. There was a point in time where I built a giant ladder the first time that I played the game, because you could build a ladder in the game, and it goes up like a little bit, right? But you could stack the ladder, and you could just keep going up. So I built it very high. It's as high as there's a large space elevator in the middle of the world where you're feeding stuff up to it. It's higher than the space elevator. That's how high my ladder is, because in the game you can also have a parachute. You eventually get a jetpack, but I don't have a jetpack, but I do have a parachute, and I have a very tall ladder. So what I do is I climb my very tall ladder, and I use my parachute, and I glide to different parts of the map to pick up collectibles that I would normally pick up. And so I found on top of a plateau uranium. Uranium is very rare in the game. It kills you very quick if you do not have a biosuit. So I was like, I have this uranium. I have no use for this uranium, but I feel like I should still mine it. So I figured out, because then I was like, what can I do with this? So I started like pulling some of it. I started bringing it back. So I was carrying around some ore and stuff. And there's a thing called the sink in Satisfactory, where if you feed the sink valuable item, you get points. And if you get enough points, you get tickets. If you get enough tickets, you could redeem those tickets for special items from the VIP store. So there's like, you could get like a mug, not like a real mug, like a in-game mug, or you could get like a little cart. And I really wanted a cart because I wanted a vehicle, because I didn't have enough stuff to get the tractor. I had enough to build a mine, right? Power, ladder. Really, I just wanted something to move around faster. So I built a mine, and I built a little conveyor belt, and I built a sink out by the uranium, and I started just sinking uranium. And so I went from getting like a couple hundred, I think I was getting upwards of 100 or something tickets, maybe a little bit more, to getting thousands. It's capped out, like the amount of tickets that I can earn, because uranium is such a rare item. I'm just literally just sinking this uranium somewhere else in the map. And so then like I go over to my sink that I have in the base that I don't feed anymore, and I go to the VIP shop and just shows my tickets just like going up and up and up and up and up. And I have to earn a lot of tickets now because they put tickets, tickets have like maybe the first one you can get redeem, like if you put one thing in you get a ticket. I'm at the point where I need to redeem like thousands of tickets to get one ticket, but I have like 15 ready to pull. So I just let that run and I forget about it. So then one day I'll go back and I'll be like, oh, I have like a million tickets that I can just get whatever I want. But yeah, so one of my most recent additions to the Satisfactory factory that I have is a Hyperloop. So
okay.
A Hyperloop is a vacuum and then a tube. And now I'm able to travel from where my power station is and my copper mine and my main base. I can travel to it very quickly now because I have a little Hyperloop. And so now I'm trying to set up, I have coal. All the coal is down where the power stations are, and I need coal to make steel. So right now I'm trying to get coal to come up to my factory. Unfortunately, I have a truck. It only delivers 45 coal a minute, and I need to expand to make what I want to make. I need 90 coal. So now I need to add a second truck. But because they released 1.2 earlier this year, they redid all the vehicle mapping. So then I'm just going to be spending hours just kind of readjusting my vehicle map. And by the time that I'm done running 2 trucks, I could have probably just built a conveyor belt to drive the coal all the way up. But who doesn't like trucks? Or if I had trains, I would have had a train. But yeah, so that's Satisfactory. And for any of you who are listening, it released into 1.0 back in 2024, and it was developed and published by Coffee Stain Studios. Technically, Coffee Stain Publishing for the publisher and Studios for the developer, but they're the same company. Or there's a really weird connection of 2 different companies.
Neat.
So yeah.
I lost connection for a bit when you said the word connection. My internet cut out, which was very weird and timely.
I don't know when I said connections. What was I talking about?
You said there was you were like, there's a weird connection, and then my internet just went.
Oh, I was just saying there would be a weird connection if there was 2 different companies that work together and they were both called Coffee Stain.
That would be funny. Getting into today's episode, we're going to be doing that thing we do when there's a topical thing happening, and we talk about that topic so that we could farm the the engagement.
We do that so infrequently, though.
I know, we don't do it a lot, but we're doing it this time because I was thinking to myself, I recently saw The Odyssey, Christopher Nolan's epic film that came out this year, and I was thinking to myself, man, I wonder how many video games were made about The Odyssey, because it's this epic poem that's been around for ages, and there were only like a handful of them. Like, I think I only included like 5 on this list, and to be honest, I was kind of digging.
Did you include Zeus? In Zeus, I think you can play as the Odysseus. I think he comes and slays something for you. There's a Cyclops, and you have summoned him as a hero.
Well, there we go. There's one game right there. I didn't talk about Zeus.
But... You didn't even talk about Zeus in a great impression game. So we haven't talked about impressions in like 300 episodes.
We haven't. No, we're talking about some of the other games that were made based on or influenced by the Odyssey. But before we do, it's Classic Gaming Brothers. We gotta give you the context of the Odyssey. So let's take you back to 8th grade English as we go into a bit of background of the Odyssey, attributed to the poet Homer. And I say attributed to because there is very little evidence to suggest that Homer was a real life person. It is likely just a name that was attributed to as the creator of the story, but even that goes to like question on if the Odyssey originated with Homer or originated as something Homer just heard, because it was a poem that was originally presented orally before it was ever written down. And the poem itself works as a sequel kinda to another epic attributed to Homer called the Iliad, which centers on the warrior Achilles during the Trojan War.
So Homer allegedly is the first one to write it down.
Yes.
And before that, it was an oral tradition.
Yes.
So it's very possible, if the Odyssey is a sequel and the Iliad is the original, very possible someone who is orally regaling the poetry might get them confused.
That's true.
It all started back when he took a boat across the ocean. Wait, this is the... I don't actually know how either of these stories begin. I just know, snippets from all of them.
Well, let's talk about it. So in the Odyssey, it's been a few years since the end of the Trojan War, and the king of the island of Ithaca, known as Odysseus, Ithaca, New York, known as Odysseus, or if you prefer the Roman version, Ulysses, has gone missing. Suitors have lined up to court his wife Penelope, who refuses to marry anyone as she firmly believes that Odysseus is still alive. Their son, Telemachus, tries to learn more about his father, and we get stories of what befell Odysseus and his men following the fall of Troy and their attempted journey home. It's during these stories that we learn of Odysseus' encounter with the Cyclops, the witch Circe, the Sirens, his trip into Hades, and all the other things that he encounters.
As a spoiler for a story that is older than you, Odysseus is in fact alive and has been enchanted by the muse, Calypso. After leaving Calypso, he finally gets home and he slaughters the suitors, so do not try to court Odysseus' wife. And then he reunites with Penelope and then goes into exile, leaving the throne to his son. The poem is largely mythological in nature. Scholars debate whether or not the events of the Trojan War actually occurred the way that the Iliad and the Odyssey depict, with the giant horse. In fact, this isn't actually a modern debate. Scholars such as Thucydides, who lived between 460 and 400 BCE, painted doubt on the number of ships involved, and in the 1st century CE, orator Dio Chrysostom even speculated that the Trojans were the true victors in the war. So people were fact-checking Homer's tall tale right after he told it. There is also a debate on where the locations that Odysseus visited in the poem are where they actually are, with Troy not being rediscovered until 1870. There is also a supernatural element to the poem involving witches, sirens, and cyclopses, all of which probably have not been seen throughout life. I mean, cyclopses, well, at least people with one eye are out there, but
those are real. Yes, there are people with one eye.
But also, Odysseus had the powers of the gods, the plural of them, being in full display during the poem. And I believe Zeus makes an appearance in courts. He's becomes like a sheep and tries to lay with a lady or something like that.
That's, I think, a different story.
It's a different story. He does do that, though.
Yes. Zeus is involved at one point.
Involved in this, but not in any weird sexual way that he usually is involved in.
Well, there's an island they go to. Well, so the Cyclops is Poseidon's child. That pisses Poseidon off when they deal with him. There's also an issue where they go to an island and Odysseus is told not to touch the cows on the island because they're one of the gods' cows.
Yeah.
And then Odysseus' men kill all the cows.
It's kind of like Diablo.
Yeah. It's a lot of the Odyssey is just them being like, oh, we probably shouldn't do this thing. And then they do that thing and then things go badly for them.
And then they get punished.
It's about hubris.
Most Greek stories go, or at least those that are written in a way. They're generally like, you shouldn't do this. Everyone knows you shouldn't do this. You did it. Now you are punished. And that is the tale of insert name here and why we have names for things like Achilles' heels.
Now, the Odyssey is a highly influential piece of literature, as we are still talking about it after all these years. It helped inspire another story called the Aeneid, which was written by Virgil around 700 years after the Odyssey, though you'll often see them bundled together. It is considered the third of the trilogy.
And it is confirmed that Virgil actually wrote it.
Well, we have more evidence that Virgil existed as a person than we do that Homer existed. Not photographic evidence, because that's still BC. But
Just a carving of him, just taking a walk.
Now, the Odyssey was also one of the influences to a story called A True Story by Lucian of Samosata in the 2nd century AD, which is often considered one of the earliest known pieces of science fiction. And it features creatures from other planets and all this other stuff. It is a satire that is parodying Greek myths by making it as outrageous as possible and making everyone kind of stupid. The character of Odysseus also makes an appearance in Dante's Dante's Inferno by Dante Alighieri, who Virgil also appears in Dante's Inferno as Dante's guide. And in more quote-unquote modern times, the Odyssey also heavily inspired the novel Ulysses by James Joyce in the 1920s. It is often regarded as kind of a modern retelling of sorts to the Odyssey, set in Dublin in the time of James Joyce.
Oh, I always thought Ulysses was about the man.
Like Ulysses S. Grant?
Yeah.
No, it's not about Ulysses S. Grant.
Oh, I always just thought Ulysses was about Ulysses S. Grant, the president.
No, it's about Dublin.
Well, it could be about. You can always just imagine that whoever this Ulysses main character is, he could just be the president.
I don't think his name's not actually Ulysses. It's all other. It's something else. It's like an Irish name, but I guess you could still pretend if you're bad at reading.
Yeah, you just pretend. I was just thinking that maybe they should write a book about Ulysses S. Grant in Ithaca, New York, and have it staged just like the Odyssey, except based in the U.S. It's probably what Grok's going to make.
Outside of literary references, the poem has also been adapted countless of times. Some of the earliest adaptations were, of course, on ceramics, with paintings depicting the events of the Odyssey, going back to the BCE period. Jumping ahead, though, many hundreds of years, one of the early cinematic adaptations was the 44 or so minute film L'Odyssea, a 1911 Italian film directed by Francesco Bertolini, Adolfo Padovan, and Giuseppe Di Ligoro, and made to both commemorate the 1911 World's Fair in Turin and also the 50th anniversary of the unification of Italy. The film, though, was predated by L'Île de Calypso ou les Géants Polyphemes, a 4-minute long short film produced and starring and directed by Georges Millet. I watched it actually just before you came on the call. It is a short little film where Georges Millet dresses like Odysseus, and then a Cyclops attacks him and he stabs the Cyclops in the eye, and then the movie ends. It is well crafted. Georges Millet was a stage magician, so he often employed a lot of trickery and practical effects in his filmmaking. He's a widely considered a early pioneer of special effects. The poem, of course, has been since adapted and retold in modern era. The 2000 movie Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is considered one of the better kind of modernized adaptations of the Odyssey. And of course, James Cameron just put out his epic film this year. But the question is, why are these two brothers talking about the Odyssey? Well, you see, dear listeners, there were in fact a few classic games that drew their influence from the epic poem, or versions of the epic poem, and that's what we love to talk about. So let's get started with the first game.
That's right, and the game that Zach won't talk about, Zeus, where in one of the maps you can summon Odysseus to kill a Cyclops. Anyway, so the first game is developed by Sierra Online, Ulysses and the Golden Fleece, which is about President Ulysses S. Grant and the Golden Fleece. It's part of Sierra's high-res adventure games. Released in 1981 for the Apple II, the game would also be ported to the Atari 8-bit line of computers and IBM PC in 1982 and to the C64 in 1984. The high-res adventure series largely follows a similar structure. They are text-based adventure games where the graphics are generated on the screen to depict certain scenes and events. Ulysses and the Golden Fleece follows this formula, with the game relying on a text parser to go on your adventure. The story combines some events from the Odyssey with the legends of Hercules and the Golden Fleece. The story also largely pulls from Roman versions of these legends, with names like Ulysses instead of Odysseus and Neptune instead of Poseidon. Similar stories, beats to the Odyssey, are still present, however, such as an encounter with the Cyclops and the Sirens. The graphics of the game are rough. I don't know if these look more like a child's drawing or a serial killer's drawing. I'm just not sure which one I haven't determined. But they definitely are animated, like they are drawn. It was built for Apple II computers, which, as a reminder, struggled with graphics because they really didn't have a graphics card. So they rendered things in sequence instead of all at once, which is difficult to do, especially when you have a very underpowered CPU. And so the game's images reflect that and are very rudimentary, with characters appearing pretty cartoony. However, it was well received during the time. PC Magazine would rate it a 14 out of 18 and called the graphics gorgeous. Do you know why, Zach?
Because their reference point was very low.
Exactly. The previous games that would have been here would have just been all text or like ASCII drawings. So this one had color, which was a positive. When like 4 colors or 5 colors. I'm not exactly sure how many are in this particular image. I think count 1, 2, 3. His crown is the same shape as his curtains.
Yeah, they're reusing the same color.
Yeah, the shirt and the border of the chair are the same. Is he wearing he looks like he's either wearing a graduate hat or he's just got some interesting hair swooping going on. So there's 1, 2, I guess we call the absence of color a color. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 colors maybe across the entire image. And it's a picture of a king sitting on a throne looking very sad, and a person.
I think that's supposed to be Ulysses, the person.
It could be the king's wife. It's undetermined. It appears to be Ulysses in a skirt, standing with his arms folded behind him. He though does bear an expression that I usually have at work, which is just kind of straight ahead with my smile being flat.
Now, next up, Seth, I have a question for you. What's the story, Wishbone?
What's the story, Wishbone? What's this you're dreaming of? Such big imagination on such a little bug.
Airing from 1995 to 1997, Wishbone was a PBS show starring a Jack Russell Terrier named Wishbone, who dreams about classic literature, and often the dreams that he has about classic literature are somewhat connected to the B plot of the episode, which often revolve, if I remember correctly, like something happening with the children. Like there's I don't know, I remember there'd be like the child, like stranger danger, and then like Wishbone's story has to do with a stranger or something like that.
Oh, like in real life, they're having some issues, and then
yeah.
it's reflected and how they can overcome them through the power of storytelling, which is Wishbone having a nap.
Yeah, because he's like, oh, this reminds me of just of that time that I read this book or something.
Yeah,
And it goes into
Then he becomes Robin Hood and he shoots somebody with his arrow.
It's a fun show. And there's a documentary about it that you can watch online if you find it, that covers the production of the show. It had very interesting production story behind it, but they did a good job at not only telling the stories of this classic literature that they were covering, but also not shying away from some of the serious topics that were discussed in these classic literature stories. For example, violence often is depicted. I mean, obviously toned down because it is a children's show.
Yeah,
but they didn't shy away from people dying or even committing suicide or even like mentions of things like slavery.
Yeah, I don't think they covered the Oedipus complex.
No, I don't think they had Wishbone pining after his mother, who would be played by a human, so it was weird on a lot of levels. But
no Oedipus complexes for sure. But yes, they did cover other stuff that's tough to cover.
But the show does, in fact, have an episode that tells the story of the Odyssey, with Wishbone portraying Odysseus, which I watched a clip from. I watched the clip of Odysseus shooting the arrow through the heads of the axes, which occurs toward the end of the poem. But my favorite part about that is in it, Telemachus gives Odysseus the bow to shoot the arrow, and Telemachus is, of course, Odysseus' son, and he's played by a human child, and Odysseus is played by a dog. So I'm just like,
yeah,
I too would be surprised if my missing father came back and he was a Jack Russell Terrier. Now, Wishbone has had some video game adaptations produced by Palladium Interactive and Big Feats Entertainment. One of these would be Wishbone and the Amazing Odyssey. The story, though, is a bit different than the one that was on television. In the game, Wishbone is sucked into his computer and has to complete Odysseus' journey to escape the computer. And you play through the game through an adventure-style game with some strategy elements, typically resolving conflicts non-violently, with violent story elements relegated to off-screen. The strategy in the adventure kind of gameplay is, I mean, it's a children's game. You're not playing anything super complex. It's not like a Sierra or LucasArts game. It's also educational. There is a digital library that contains an abridged version of the Odyssey, as well as other pieces of information about various Greek mythological items. I thought the game looked cute. I like the pictures of Wishbone dressed as Odysseus because he's just wearing like a Greek helmet with the feather thing on it. I forgot what it's called. It was also recent. It was decently received. All Game Guide gave it a 4 out of 5, and the Quad City Times, a reputable source of gaming journalism, gave it a 3 out of 5.
A plume.
A plume
is what you're probably thinking about. Age of Mythology is likely a game that we could have had an entire episode on, and still can. Developed by Ensemble Studios and published by Microsoft Game Studios in 2002, Age of Mythology is a spin-off to Age of Empires, the popular RTS series. The game is similar to Age of Empires in most of the base gameplay. You construct buildings, farm food, mine gold, chop down wood, and all the works. Where the game differs from Age of Empires, however, is that the Age of Mythology has a stronger focus on mythology, especially mythological figures with supernatural elements, versus real-world historical events with real-world boring historical people. No Napoleon in this game, only Zeus. This game includes a new resource called Favor, which can be acquired by having the people of your civilization do things like pray at a temple or build a monument, along with actual civilizations like the Greeks, the Egyptians, and the Norse, who all had very strong mythological gods. They also added mythological cultures such as the Atlanteans in one of the DLCs. Major and minor gods in the game also make appearances, offering various powers and abilities that can aid you in your conquest or your defense. Why this game exists on our list is due to the campaign, which follows an Atlantean named Arakantos. In the first part of the campaign, Arakantos assists Agamemnon in the Trojan War, and you're assisted by Ajax and Odysseus. Apparently, they really liked A's. While the brief inclusion of Odysseus earns the game a spot on our list. Age of Mythology was wildly popular, with combined sales of the game and DLC selling over 1.3 million units by 2006. The game was also incredibly well received, with IGN giving it a 9.3 out of 10, GameSpot giving it a 9.2 out of 10, and PC Gamer giving it an 86%. Yeah, I like Age of Mythology. It's a fun game.
I do too. I play a lot of Age of Empires with my friends, but I like Age of Mythology because I like that you can use the powers of the gods to wipe out an entire culture, such as raining fireballs down on people.
You could do that in Civilization, except instead of the gods, it's nukes.
You could do that in Rise of Nations. Instead of gods, it's nuclear submarines that are positioned off the coast of your friend's base that's still in this Bronze Age, and you just launch. That was a fun game that I played with my friends. They really hated me after that game because they were all still in like the Stone Age. I think they were in the Iron Age, and I was in the Modern Age, and I was building nuclear submarines and nuking them off the coast.
Maybe they should learn how to play Rise of Nations better.
Next up, we have our pretty much first and only game that's basically just based on the Odyssey. This game is Odyssey: The Search for Ulysses.
Oh, is this where you play as Odysseus and you search for President Ulysses?
Man, I wish. The game would be developed by Cryo Interactive in 2000 and follows the original poem fairly closely, though the major difference is that you don't play as Odysseus, or Ulysses rather. You play as Horatius, a character that was created for the game, who is said to be a childhood friend of Ulysses, and Horatius is tasked by Penelope to figure out what happened to Ulysses by retracing his steps, starting first in Troy and going from there, which I like that they basically invented a character and they said, we'll just make you do the Odyssey. Have fun doing the Odyssey.
Is he like he's like a Hastings to Hercule Poirot, as it were?
Yeah, I guess so. Along the way, you encounter the Cyclops, Ogorgon, and various attempts from the gods to stop your quest. The game is a 3D adventure title using the CryoGen engine, which I believe is the same engine they used for their Frank Herbert's Dune game that I actually played and we talked about when we did our Dune episode. It kind of has what I call a Morrowind vibe to it, in that everyone's just a little blocky and their faces are kind of flat, and the graphics are just not quite there yet for 3D adventure titles. They're not terrible, but they still had a way to go. The game itself was mixed in its reception. GameSpot commented, though its problems might be frustrating at first, once you settle into the game, you'll be in for a suitably rewarding adventure. The Electronic Playground similarly gave the game a 6.75 out of 10 and said, a good mythological storyline goes a long way towards making a sometimes frustrating game a whole lot of fun. I did see one negative review that said, like, after playing this game, you'll never want to go back. So.
To the game?
Yeah.
Go back to what?
I like the picture of Horatius that I posted.
He does kind of look like a generic man from Morrowind.
Yeah, right? He just looks like a Morrowind man.
Last for this episode would be Warriors Legends of Troy, which is connected somewhat to the Dynasty Warrior series of games. They're probably due for their own episode, but Dynasty Warriors is a Japanese series of hack-and-slash games where you take on large numbers of enemies single-handedly. A major difference between the usual Dynasty Warriors and Warriors Legends of Troy is that Legends has a lot more blood than Dynasty Warriors does. While not directly based on the Odyssey, Warriors Legends of Troy is heavily based on the Trojan War, as depicted in the Iliad, and characters like Agamemnon and Odysseus appear, with Odysseus being playable. Another playable character is Aeneas, the main character in Virgil's The Aeneid. Greeks love A's. The game was developed by Koei Canada and released in 2011 to the PS3 and Xbox 360. The team traveled to different archaeological sites to get an idea of what the area would have looked like in order to make their game feel more accurate. Don't worry, didn't help them. Reviews were mixed. IGN gave it a 6 out of 10, Games Radar Plus gave it a 2.5 out of 5, and Destructoid gave it a 4 out of 10. In their review, Games Radar called the game's different objectives tedious and said it had a bunch of wasted potential.
That's the type of review I love to read. It's just them saying it's wasted potential.
That's the review that needs to hit the magazine after your boss just approved you to travel around to a bunch of archaeological things.
And that will do it for our Odyssey episode. Obviously, there are definitely more games that we could talk about. The Zeus game, for example, and Zeus and Poseidon, both classic games that do reference the Odyssey. There also is the Total War Troy game, which is largely based on the Trojan War. There's a couple other games that are based on the Trojan War that are out there, but I didn't feel like writing about those. So that's it for this episode, to be honest. And unless Seth has anything to contribute related to the Odyssey and the games that inspired it.
No, I don't. I'm good.
Now, getting into our retro rewinds, Seth had me play Risky Woods for MS-DOS, released in 1992 by Dynamic, spelled D-I-N-A-M-I-C, software, and published by EA. Risky Woods is a side-scrolling platform game where you play as a guy running through the different worlds that you explore, chucking knives at people, and I hated it. I thought it was one of those really annoying games where enemies just constantly spawn and endlessly attack you, and yes, you have unlimited knives. No, it didn't make me any more enjoy the game. I also really didn't like the fact that you have to press down to collect items. It's just very annoying because you'll be trying to pick up like items that you drop, because when you get injured, you drop your coins and you have to pick up your coins, so you have to like duck down to pick up your coins so you can pick them up. It was just a lot. I didn't like it. I thought it was a really bad game. It was apparently released on the Sega Genesis. I don't know if the Genesis version is any better. I doubt it. Next week, Seth, you can play the Chaos engine, which we did have for MS-DOS, but I want you to play the Sega Genesis version.
All right, I will do so. Zach had me play Wall Street Raider, or as I like to call it, Wall $Treat Raider, a business simulation game that was developed by Ronin Soft and published by Intracorp for MS-DOS. It's the stock market. That's what the game is. It looks and it simulates the stock market. You can buy and sell stocks or commodities and trade them and do all the fun things that you could do in the market, like margin call and short stocks and leverage buyouts and do all sorts of fun things without any of your real money. It was released in 1986 for MS-DOS. Then Ronin Soft would go on to remaster it and release it on Windows in 2001. And now it is going on and getting another remastered by Hackjack Games, and it came out in May of 2026. And for $30, you could play the remastered thrice Wall Street Raider, or as I like to call it, Wall $Treat Raider. Fun fact about the remastered Wall Street Raider game is Ronin Soft was led by primarily Michael D. Jenkins, and the remaster was done by Ben Ward of Hackjack Games, and Ben Ward got on a call and worked with Michael Jenkins for the game. And Michael Jenkins was like, once you go down this road for playing this game, building this game, it's a deep world, and it's just going to consume your life. I don't know if it was a warning or he seemed like he was very proud of his game, but he also seemed that he was also sick of his game.
I mean, You sound sick of his game.
I'm not sick of his game. I don't think it's a bad game. I think it's decidedly for a very particular person. The game has been updated. It turned 40 this year. And does it hold up? If you find enjoyment in playing the stock market, taking risky bets that you wouldn't take with your real money, but with fake money, and then be really sad when you become a fake billionaire, or really grateful when you become fake bankrupt, then the game is for you. But you have to really like spreadsheets to want to play this game. I really like spreadsheets, and I don't know if I think I would rather play Gazillionaire than this game, because this game reminds me of real life, where Gazillionaire reminds me of a fantasy space trucking world, still with market economies, but with things like Dibbly-Dorf instead of oil. Though I did read a great review about the new Wall Street Raider, and I do like, if you go to the Wall Street Raider on Steam page and you play the video, it just starts with Michael Jenkins being like, "My vision." It just sounds like a intro for like an older game. This was a review from somebody who has 71 hours of Wall Street Raider, the new version, on record. They found a holding company in the game. They found a bank inside the holding company. Oil price was $54 a barrel. Bought oil futures using the holding company. A black swan event happened. Oil jumped to $300 a barrel. They closed their position. Oil pulled back. Schellenberger is dying. Bought out SLB and Capital. Contribute to my bank to fix capital structure. Mergers and acquisitions, small producer. Suddenly SLB has 45% market share. Government curfew causes $400 barrel for oil profit.
Nice.
So it's a great game for people who like the stock market and pretending to be a Wall Street Raider. If you find spreadsheets something that you like to do during work, but not necessarily something you like to do in your free time, then maybe it's not for you. But I think the game from 1986 holds up. I think it's just a game that I got to be in the mood to really want to keep going back and play it some more. Next week, Zach, you could play Corridor 7, Alien Invasion for MS-DOS. They had something in common with Wall Street Raider, that they were both published by Intercorp.
Yeah, interesting. That will do it for our episode today. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this Classic Gaming Brothers episode. If you have any thoughts about the Odyssey, be it the original poem or the new movie or any of the adaptations we've talked about, let us know. You can do so by emailing us at classicgamingbrothers@gmail.com. We're available wherever podcasts can be found, be it Podbean, iTunes, or iHeartRadio. We're available on YouTube. Like and subscribe. We're available on Patreon. Be sure to support us if you can. We're also available on our website, Classic Gaming Brothers, and of course we're available right here. I don't remember what I was going to say. Anyway, Seth, is there anything else that I'm forgetting? I feel like I'm forgetting something.
Don't play games like my brother.
Ah, you're right. Don't play games like my brother.
I've been Seth.
And I've been Zach.
And we've been the Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's right.